Hello, welcome back to Ben Leo Tonight, late edition now. Tensions between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin have hit breaking point. After months of failed diplomacy, President Trump has deployed nuclear subs near Russia and accelerated tough new sanctions against Putin. The president, once proud of his close ties with Mr. Vladimir Putin, now calls him crazy and accuses his Russian counterpart of fueling war in Ukraine. Civilian deaths and stalled peace talks have pushed Trump to act. And the President Trump says Russia has days left to come to the table and sort the situation out in Ukraine or face devastating consequences. I'm joined now by American political strategist and spokesman for Republicans overseas, Erol Morkoc. Erol, good evening, good morning. Where are you, Erol? Are you in the UK or in America?
I'm in America at the moment. I'll be back next week.
All right, well, good afternoon to you or good morning, whatever the time is there. This is a clear change of tone from President Trump against Putin. I guess as an outsider, you could kind of understand what President Trump was trying to do in the early stages and be diplomatic with Putin. Now it seems like he's just running out of patience.
Look, I think a lot of it comes down to, and this isn't me trying to put the blame on the prior administration. This is our problem. We're dealing with it. But there was no faith on our side that any due diligence on the peace side had gone forth, whether that had been Joe Biden or that had been Lloyd Austin, the former Secretary of Defense. So, I mean, it sounds a little bit backtracky, but it's not really. We had to try to give peace a chance, and Donald Trump extended that olive branch. He made concessions. He admitted where, hey, Zelensky perhaps isn't a good actor in this situation. He did a lot of overtures, and Vladimir Putin took all of that, gave him kind words, and then delivered nothing. Only more death, more destruction, more civilian casualties. And Donald Trump is a humanitarian above all else. I mean, people sometimes laugh when I say that, but he really does seem to have compassion for people. And so now we've reached a point of, I think, a change of focus. And I think that change of focus is coming because Russia has, MIRV, which is multiple entry warhead hypersonic missiles that have gone online just this August. I mean, that is a Mach 10 missile that can hit anything. So right now, the U.S. moving its submarines, that's a show to Russia that, yes, you might have this unstoppable capability, but Moscow is also under that direct threat. And that is not the direction that we wanted to go. And I think Donald Trump did his best for that initial piece, and he was rebuffed at every good overture. So now we're in the escalatory phase, and I think they have 10 to 12 days to come to the table, or those sanctions go in full force on countries that have been doing trade with Russia behind the scenes.
Which countries have been doing trade with Russia behind the scenes on the snide?
Well, the ones that matter are the ones with the big dollars, and that's going to be mainly China and mainly India, and that's a really big bugaboo for Prime Minister Modi, who's made these big overtures with President Trump, who's got this sort of tangential trade deal, who's trying to onboard Apple and other big tech firms in there. All of a sudden, he's going to be caught in a situation where perhaps the uplift that the Indian economy gets from buying Russian oil, marking it up 25% and selling it to Europe, isn't worth what it's going to lose in trade deals with the United States of America. So I think that's one way to look at it. But you also are going to have a lot of other economies down the line that are doing business also through the shipping companies of Russia or India, and they're going to be impacted. So it's a really big trigger to pull. It's not a small thing that's going to just impact the bigger guys, and that's where the pressure has to ramp up, because doctrinally things have to change from, hey, we're looking for peace, we'll cut you some slack. We're not in that phase anymore. Putin's killing innocent people. I think 40,000 people on both sides died last month. That's not what President Trump promised his voters, and he owes that to the human race, I think, to do his best as a leader of the free world to bring an end to it.
That's crazy. I mean, it's sad, tragic. I mean, and by the way, I've watched so much GoPro footage from the trenches in the Donbass. They're just young kids. They're 18, 19, 20-year-olds. A lot of them probably related by some way, cousins, just slaughtering each other. The GoPro footage is insane. President Trump has said that in reaction to moving those nuclear subs in response to Russia, it was because of the former president, Dmitry Medvedev, who's mouthing off about, suggesting that nuclear warheads would be in play.
Yeah, and I think that Medvedev perhaps overestimated how unimportant he was. President Trump actually, I think, has done this in a way to silence it. Not only is he an actual player, even though he's not technically in the seat of power, he's somebody this isn't new for him. If you've followed his Twitter history or social media, he's been a very bellicose war hawk, open to nuclear confrontation, almost to the point of welcoming it, very bring it on mentality. And he was the president of Russia for quite a period of time, maybe under the tutelage of Vladimir Putin, while they traded that back and forth and that sort of sham that went on there. So I think Donald Trump also does that to, really hit and neutralize somebody, because now Putin's going to have to tell him, hey, if you keep this up, it's going to impact us further. I think that might have been a shot that Trump had enough of what he's had to say. But I think ultimately it comes down to Vladimir Putin. Is he going to rein in his subordinates? And he can, if he seeks a peace deal from this point right now, he'll get a lot of what he wants. If he continues, I mean, analysts don't expect the Russian wartime economy to be able to continue past 2026, maybe 2027 at the clip it's going. It can do well, but it's not going to be good for the people. And I think that they should take heed right now that they have 10 to 12 days before this can really get bad for their economy.
Yeah, and Erol, just finally, you mentioned Zelensky at the start of your chat, and it just reminded me, I'd forgotten the Hollywood-style iconic scenes in the White House with Vance, President Trump, Zelensky in there, the reporters. Was it a guy from Fox? I mean, we've come a long way since then. It seems that as you suggested, the sort of attempt by Trump to go after Zelensky, badmouth Ukraine, and call them out for their corruption and so on, and their ungratefulness hasn't really worked.
Yeah, it didn't work in the fashion that it did. Although on some respects, what it did is it got Europe to sort of step up. And as we see the new support for Ukraine going through NATO, and we also see it immediately when the Europeans had their money on the line, all of a sudden they cut aid and said, wait a second, let's look at the corruption. So when it wasn't American money, all of a sudden the corruption got looked into. So perhaps that's what's going to make it a more leaner fighting force and a multinational fighting force. I think something that's required for Europe to actually stand up to Russia, because ultimately this is a European problem. And the Americans should be there in support and helping, but Europe needs to take a frontline role, and using NATO, I think, was a great idea.
Erol, thank you so much. Really appreciate your company, and hopefully we'll catch up soon. Thank you, Erol Morkoc, strategist and spokesman for Republicans overseas. Should we take a quick last look at